Disney News Talk Live time. Hey everyone, Wade for the Kingdom Report, hanging out with you once again to cover all the latest Disney parks news from coast to coast, talking some of the most important news of the week, and certainly looking to get your opinion as well. That is what this broadcast is all about. So whenever we start talking a certain story, I want to hear exactly what's on your mind. I want to know what you're thinking. This is your Disney parks experience, and therefore we need to know. What is it that's on your mind when it comes to these particular stories? We're covering a lot of things tonight, including the Disneyland Merriest Nights, the new Christmas party coming to the happiest place on earth, which to me is wild. I never thought I'd see the day, but it's finally here. And then in addition to that, what Disney Genie Plus services might be doing here in the near future for wait times when it comes to the Disney parks and what you might have to deal with when it comes to the Disney Genie Plus service. So we're going to be covering that as well. And then in a little bit, we're also going to be talking about in fact, there's a rumor going around about how whether or not this Candlelight procession at EPCOT is really coming back this year. Disney hasn't officially announced anything yet, but it does sound like we are on the cusp of that happening. There are a lot of things being put out into the ether, as it were, for cast members who might be interested in joining the cast choir. The folks that oftentimes are up there on stage as the singing Christmas tree. Well, they are getting notified as of right now as to whether or not they are interested, and if so, where to apply and how to get involved. It's a little late in the season. I think usually they start just a tad earlier than this, but no doubt this might be a last-minute decision. Who knows? So very much looking forward to talking about that here in a bit. In addition to that, Disney World's also going to be hiring over 1,000 people, it sounds like. And in addition to that, those people are also going to be offered up $1,000 bonuses. Yeah, a signing bonus for coming online and being a part of the Walt Disney World magical experience. We're also going to be chatting about George Calagridis, the former Walt Disney World president, just received a window on Main Street, USA at the Magic Kingdom. Have some interesting stories about George. Close personal friend of mine, as a matter of fact. Great mentor, great leader in my life, and is somebody that has to a great degree, always made time to ensure that my professional development was not only well taken care of, but also was always on the right track. So just thrilled to see that the former Walt Disney World president not only received a window, but he's also right now the worldwide ambassador for the Disney World 50th anniversary. So lots to touch on there. And on top of that, some entertainment is returning to Walt Disney World. How about that? So lots to talk about. As I said, lots of things to touch on, definitely. And I'm so excited to hear that we are going to be seeing some Christmas return this year, not just in the capacity that Disneyland has already announced, but my gosh, how awesome is this? I mean, they're bringing back pretty much everything for the holiday season. We talked about it on Kingdom Report Live last week. If you tuned in, no doubt you saw myself, Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzone, just thrilled over the fact that all of these things were going to be brought back for the holiday season. When I say all of these things, what I mean is pretty much everything that they typically have for the holiday season at Disneyland that obviously last year we didn't get to see because the park was not open. So it's so cool to have Disneyland back in action for the holiday season, and very much looking forward to all of the magic returning in the way that it should have been. Oh my goodness, fantastic to see not just the parades returning and to hear that the fireworks are going to be back in action, but certainly entertainment being tethered to all of it. I know Buena Vista Street, California Adventure gets involved also. So much is going to be happening through the holiday season. And can I say, it's about dang time. It has been a very sad, last year and a half, a very tragic last year and a half. It is time to get the seasons pumping. We're already doing it with Halloween time, and now here we go into the holiday season after that with these announcements. It's just fantastic to hear. So I am amped up for sure. Definitely wanted to share with you, though, that Disney, they are going to be sharing with us a lot of great and exciting things here in the holiday season, in addition to all that they have announced as returning. Basically, a typical Disneyland Christmas time is returning. They have also announced that Disney's Merriest Nights, basically a Christmas party, is coming to the Disneyland Resort for the first time ever. The Orange County Register is reporting that Disneyland plans to throw the first Merriest Nights After Hours Christmas holiday party with 6 themed areas throughout the Anaheim theme parks, hosted by Mickey Mouse, Buzz Lightyear, Princess Tiana, Miguel, Lilo and Stitch, and Queen Elsa. Disney Merriest Nights will run on 5 select nights in November and December during what has traditionally been the busy holiday season at Disneyland. The separate ticket event will take place on November 11th, 16th, and 30th, and then December 7th and the 9th. Tickets for Disney Merriest Nights go on sale Tuesday, September 14th, no earlier than 9 a.m. on the Disneyland website and mobile app. So, I'm sure you'll be waiting for 8 hours to get your hand on those, just because that has been everybody's experience recently when it comes to anything going on sale for the first time on those apps and the website. They say expect Disneyland to add additional dates in if the initial nights sell out quickly. The Merriest Nights events will be broken into 6 themed holiday parties, with each tied to a land in the park and hosted by a familiar Disney or Pixar character. Mickey Mouse on Main Street, USA, Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story in Tomorrowland, Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog in New Orleans Square, Miguel from Coco in Frontierland, Lilo and Stitch in Adventureland, and Queen Elsa from Frozen will be in Fantasyland. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Mickey's Toontown, and Critter Country will remain closed during Disney Merriest Nights. Mickey will don Victorian flair on Main Street and be joined by the Muppets traveling in a special coach for Christmas Carol sing-alongs. Okay, that, I don't know about you, that to me right there, I think I'm sold. The idea that the Muppets are going to be in a special coach for Christmas Carol sing-alongs, that sounds like a total win for me, but I digress. Elsewhere, Tiana will celebrate a Bayou-inspired Noel. Miguel will host a Feliz Navidad fiesta. Lilo will throw a tropical holiday party, and Elsa will transform Fantasyland into a winter wonderland, and Buzz will add an intergalactic twist to the season, which is great because I don't know if you've ever visited Disneyland during Christmas time, but ain't no Christmas happening in Tomorrowland. Almost never. I think, if I recall, a couple years ago, suddenly a Christmas tree showed up in Alien Pizza Planet. I about lost my mind. I didn't think that the future had Christmas, just because, this is the vision of the future, and it looked like at some point Christmas went extinct. But it was so cool seeing this Christmas tree suddenly show up in the dining room of Pizza Planet, and it was like, oh my God, Christmas does exist in the future. It's just dramatically scaled back. Maybe we just cut out all the commercialism. I don't know. But it was so cool seeing the one lone tree in Tomorrowland. It'll be really great to see something happen in that land for Christmas time, even if it is for this holiday party night event. Merriest Nights promises new character interactions, musical performances, and themed photo backdrops, in addition to the seasonal attraction overlays on It's a Small World and Haunted Mansion, a Christmas fantasy parade, and holiday decor, food, and merchandise already found throughout Disneyland during the Christmas season. They say Disney Merriest Nights will start at 8 p.m. each night, with event visitors able to mix in with daily crowds starting at 5 p.m. each night, and ticket prices range from $165 to $175. So there you go. Interesting to me that they have finally pulled the trigger on creating a Disneyland-themed Christmas party, a Disneyland Christmas theme party, I should say. And it's something that for the longest time, I know Disneyland had been discussing. Executives at the park had always talked about the possibility of bringing in a holiday-themed party. Disney World for years has had a party in some capacity out east for the holiday season. And so the temptation was always there for Disneyland to do this sort of a thing, especially when I was around. Over the course of the last 12 years, certainly crowds have been at a fever pitch when it comes to the holiday season. It is the busiest time of the year, so a lot of people just sort of assume, because as has been tradition over the last few decades, that summertime is always the busiest. Not at all. Summertime anymore. Summer has become sort of a dead season, and the whole calendar, the entire guest visitation calendar, has been sort of turned on its ear, and now it's always Christmas time that is the very busiest time of year to visit. And I always tell people that too, because I'm shocked by the amount of folks that think that coming to Disneyland the week of Christmas is going to yield no crowds. I would hear that year after year from family friends. Oh, well, nobody's going to be there at Christmas, right? Are you kidding? That's that is wall to wall crazy. That's when they shut the gates at Disneyland and California Adventure more often than any other time of year. That is when they officially close the gates and say, no, we can't fit anybody else. But yeah, you see here the ticket prices for the 5-night event. So you have $175 for November 11th, $165 November 16th, $165 November 30th. Tuesday, December the 7th is $165, and then December 9th is $165. It's, I think, very fascinating to me, is just how I get that, that week of November 11th, it's probably Veterans Day week, right? I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I think that might be Veterans Day week. It's very interesting to me that there's that one-off 175 right there, and then everything else pretty much remains 165. But I'm interested, folks. Are you willing to plunk down the money for Disney's Merriest Nights at the Disneyland Resort? Again, first time they've ever decided to toy with this sort of concept and make it happen. It does sound like there's being a little bit offered that you wouldn't typically get. I mean, they did announce that they're bringing back basically everything from previous holiday seasons already. So having the character-themed holiday parties, the themed areas, I guess. We'll see what that's like. I'm always hesitant to pan anything that we haven't experienced yet. I certainly don't think that that's fair, because until we see it, how do we really know, right? So I definitely don't jump on that bandwagon of slamming and slashing something just because it's new and it costs money and it's an upcharge. Let's see what they offer first. If it's something that really is impressive and something that really does make you go, whoa, then okay. But it's, one of those things that I definitely think, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to figure out what this is going to be first, and then we can move on in deciding whether or not it's worth our money. But $165, $175 as a separate price ticket. You can start mixing in, as they said, at 5 p.m., and it looks like it goes, until midnight. So that's great, I guess. I do think that it's interesting that they pulled the trigger finally. It's been a long time coming, as I said. This isn't something that I know I think there was a lot of hesitation. Here's kind of the backstory when it comes to why Disneyland has never done a Christmas party. They know that they're already bursting at the seams with day guests, and I think the hesitation had always been a concern that the day guests were going to be upset and that there wasn't going to be enough to offer. Because, there's only two parks and they're right next to each other and people come and go. And perhaps with reservations, it won't be nearly as crazy this year as it has been in past years. But this is something that they've always been hesitant to do just because of the crowding issue. And when you close down Disneyland Park, the epicenter of all things Christmas, if you will, that changes things. That changes the crowd flow. And if you can't get into California Adventure, you don't have a reservation for California Adventure that day, then you're out of luck and there's a Christmas party happening and there's not many places to go. Downtown Disney will get swarmed, but they've always just sort of held off on the idea of making a Christmas party happen because it's already the most popular time of the year. And I think that they realize that trying to do a ticketed event might just add to the disdain towards the resort itself. But I'm interested to hear if you are planning on buying a ticket to this Christmas party, especially it being the first of its kind. Interesting to hear that it's also going to have the Christmas Fantasy Parade, so an exclusive showing. No fireworks mentioned in this, so no fireworks. And then on top of that, because I think this would have been a great opportunity to introduce something new into the fireworks mix, just because. Is it Believe in Holiday Magic, I think is the correct title for the Christmas fireworks. Keep that in mind. That show's been around like 20 years, right? So, I mean, it's been around a really long time. And so I think this would have been the perfect time to introduce an entirely new Christmas-themed fireworks show. But we'll see. Again, I mean, if a parade and a snowfall with some character theme zones interests you and you're willing to pay an extra $165 for it, again, would be very interested to hear if that's something that you're willing to plunk down money for and make happen. I know that there's an awful lot at Christmas time to consider when it comes to what you're going to allocate your funds to. Just because Christmas time is already such people max out their credit cards. People are trying to make ends meet when it comes to all of the expenditures for their kids and their families, and there's usually a lot of travel going on and things like that. So very interested. Tell me though, is this unusual to you? I mean, do you think that this timing is strange? Why do you think Disneyland is introducing Christmas parties right now? Do you think it's a cash grab? Are you somebody that subscribes to that idea that this is just a way to make money because they're trying to get back on financial track and all the reservations have restricted things? Or, is this something that they're doing because you think, hey, they're offering up a little bit extra because they've always done it at Disney World. Now it's just time to do it at Disneyland. Would really be interested in hearing your perspective. So as always, make sure to leave a comment for us, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube. This is your time to speak. This is your time to share what you think is going on, because I certainly am curious as to what you think they're doing here. Again, always a lot of hesitation behind whether or not to do a Christmas party at Disneyland. They've pulled the trigger. They're doing it. Coincidentally, Bob Chapek is the CEO, and we've seen a lot of things happen while he's been the CEO within the last year or so, and a lot of upcharge events have already occurred out east at Walt Disney World, and certainly as the Genie Plus program starts to take shape and becomes an additional add-on to your park day, and expenditures and charge-ups or something that get thrown into the mix. Is this something that you imagine he has directed, or is an edict from him? Or is this something you think maybe Josh D'Amaro, the chairman of Parks and Resorts, think maybe this is something that he has something to do with and thought, we've always done it out east, because remember, he's a Disney World guy. He's been in the executive ranks at Walt Disney World for at least the last 10 years. You think maybe this is his doing, and he's decided that Christmas parties at Disneyland are long overdue, and only 5 nights, but maybe this is their experiment. Maybe they're just trying something to see what happens, and they're going to go from there. But definitely interested in hearing your perspective. Well, my friends, there's plenty more news to get to, including exactly how long of a wait that Genie Plus service is potentially going to make within the theme park's environments. Is this Genie Plus thing, is this going to be difficult? Is this going to be something that will stretch out lines further than we've ever seen? Or is it going to be less impactful than FastPass? We're going to talk about that and so much more coming up here on Disney News Talk Live. Stick with us. Thanks for sticking with us here on Disney News Talk Live, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or the majority of you, I know, are watching on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. Always great to have you with us. So I just asked you before we took a little bit of a break here, what do you think when it comes to this new Disneyland Christmas party that's being introduced, Disney's Merriest Nights, 5 nights, happening here between November and December, a special upcharged event. Definitely interested in your perspective. And a couple of you have shared exactly what you are thinking and what's on your mind. I know that Edward Strine said, I am also shocked when it comes to these holiday parties. So that is very true. It's something that I too am quite surprised by, and definitely something that has... I won't say it snuck up on me. I just didn't anticipate this year being the year they pulled the trigger on having Christmas parties. That's for sure. I thought this was going to be let's just get through this year with all the restrictions and the things that we got to deal with, and then we'll plan bigger next year. But when they announced that they were coming back with, a full Christmas slate at Disneyland, I thought, man, that's surprising. And then a couple days later, they announced this. So very cool to hear. We also have another comment here from, we'll just say Chuck. It says, I went on Christmas Day once, never again. And we are talking before DD. So yeah, Christmas Day at the Disney parks ends up being just pandemonium style. It ends up being just wild. And it's something, it's one of those days that I'm not there if I can, if there's any other way of not being there on Christmas Day, I just don't show up. I'm not there. I refuse to be there. It's a special day for a lot of people. I'd much rather spend Christmas Day at home with my loved ones than in a wall-to-wall busy theme park where there are, 45-minute lines for the restrooms. So, I think a lot of people that go and have that experience of Christmas Day at the Disney parks, it might be a surprise to many of them to realize, oh my gosh, things are nuts here. So it certainly does happen. Xavier says that he can't wait for the Christmas party. Xavier, that's awesome to hear. I know I've also heard from some friends that are pretty amped up for just the concept of having Disneyland host a Christmas party for the first time ever. I mean, it is pretty cool, right? I mean, who knows what they're going to do? And I will say this, based on my experience going to Walt Disney World's parties, oftentimes Disneyland, if they do anything that is considered a one-off event or special, and this is, again, oftentimes, there have been some misses here and there over the years. Oftentimes, Disneyland, and this is commonly my experience, does over-deliver. Whereas Walt Disney World, it's like it all gets down to an operational science, and you're left going, yeah, I'm satisfied, but they don't exceed your expectations, right? I'm not wowed by anything truly. When it comes to the seasonal parties and stuff like that out at Walt Disney World. Now, I haven't done many of the after-hours events. I'm going to have to try and do some of those out east. But when it comes to the one-off parties and events that Disneyland does from time to time, I always feel like they overexceed. So that's, a tremendous tribute to the quality and consistency of the Disneyland Resort. And I get Walt Disney World's a much bigger place, but it's certainly something that has come to my mind when I thought about them doing these Christmas parties. I was like, well, they'll probably really hit it hard because this is their first foray into having a Christmas-style party. They'll probably really hit it hard out of the gate. So I can imagine that these 5 nights are going to be probably pretty cool. So, again, I say it's weird not having fireworks added to this lineup. It certainly seems like it was a great time to introduce something new and offer something truly unique. But, outside of the character zones and stuff like that, we'll see. We will certainly see. So thank you, Xavier, for the comment. Diane says, nope way. I assume that means no way. Too expensive, especially with 3 lands closed. I've also heard this from people. So since this got released just a couple days ago, I've talked to some friends who said the same thing. They're only having a portion of the park open for this. Is that really going to be worth it? And Diane, I don't disagree with you. I think what this comes down to is ultimately what they offer and how restricted the capacity is. So ultimately, what are they going to offer? Will they overexceed? And again, the running consistency of what Disneyland has been able to do with these one-off events and these special parties is that they do often exceed expectations. So I have high hopes, but having, all these lands closed, in addition to not having fireworks, it might be a tough sell for a lot of people. So thank you, Diane. D chimes in saying, my favorite Christmas experience is and was the Candlelight Processional. You know, D, this is a great point, and something that, we haven't heard them announce anything about the Candlelight Processional this year at Disneyland. We're going to touch on whether or not it's going to be returning to Disney World here shortly, but they haven't even acknowledged it for Disneyland. I got to say, the Candlelight Processional is such a part of the Walt Disney World experience out at EPCOT, and is such a part of Christmas time out east, and it runs like every day. And it runs the entire season, and it runs multiple times a day. It's such a big production out there, and to only have it here at Disneyland a couple nights is so disappointing, because it's truly spectacular. And I know that they attempted to, many years ago, move the Candlelight Processional at Disneyland to the Fantasyland Theater, which is essentially a covered location with a stage and an amphitheater already built in. And it sounds like the purists lost their minds when it came to moving Candlelight Processional back there. And it sounds like mainly because, Walt Disney had it in Town Square for a reason. Like, it was his place to host the processional and his place to, give back to the community and say thank you for another great year. And so a lot of the purists and the Disney diehards at Disneyland said, hell no, you're not going to move everything back to the Fantasyland Theater. You're going to keep this in Town Square. So, it's remained in Town Square ever since. But I got to tell you, the majority of the time, year after year, that poor Candlelight Processional usually gets rained out on a night. I mean, almost always. And it's sad because it's out there in the open, out there in the elements. There is no cover. If they moved this to a location like the Fantasyland Theater, they wouldn't have to worry about that. And I get that it's very epic having it all on the train station in Town Square. I understand that atmosphere is truly captivating and, really does offer a heck of a backdrop. But moving it to the Fantasyland Theater, especially, D, for something like this, having it as a special offering, outside of those 2 nights that, they could do it in front of Town Square, putting this in the Fantasyland Theater as an offering for the Christmas parties, these 5 nights, could you imagine? Like, what? Okay, that might be worth, this extra price for this party. Yeah, I certainly think so. So that's something that comes to mind of, if you want to offer up something truly unique and some epic entertainment, well, there you go. So thanks, Steve, for checking in. Yep, November 11th is Veterans Day, so thank you for that, Chuck. Yeah, I knew it was definitely that week for sure, and so wanted to be sure that I had that correct, just didn't have a calendar in front of me, so thank you for that. And we'll take one more here. Let's see. Dwayne chimes in saying, I'm okay with the cash grab as long as customers walk away feeling like they got their money's worth. I think I feel much the same way you do, Dwayne. If my money is well spent, then cool. If they exceed my expectations, then awesome. But if this is just purely an upcharge event with some characters that I could probably see during the day, and they just happen to be on a stage with some Christmas music, then that's not cool. And I'm not okay with spending all this extra money for it. But if it truly is a capped, restricted event where so few people get to be there that it feels like it's your own personal party, then okay, sounds like it might be worth a little bit of money. So at any rate, very excited to see what they end up offering. Again, not going to trash it until I experience it myself, but very much I'll call it a welcomed addition to the Christmas lineup. We'll see how they handle it, and whether or not that moniker of welcomed edition truly does stick around past the events. Again, I'll be making up my mind after that. We will move along here to our next story, and this is all about the Genie Plus service that is going to be making its way into our lives here very shortly. So big news when it comes to the Genie Plus service, and that is that there are some analyses being done about whether or not this replacement is going to impact the wait times in a shorter or longer way. for Walt Disney World and Disneyland. In fact, the LA Daily News is reporting with saying that diehard mouseheads complaining about the death of Disneyland's free FastPass system and the rise of the new paid Genie Plus replacement have one thing to rejoice about: potentially shorter attraction wait times. I know. I'm shocked too. They say the new Disney Genie service will debut this fall as a replacement for the retiring FastPass and MaxPass line cutting options. Disneyland will replace the free FastPass system with a paid Lightning Lane option and begin charging for premium front-of-the-line access on some individual attractions. More than 15 attractions at Disneyland and California Adventure will be part of the $20 Genie Plus service on the Disneyland mobile app. Haunted Mansion, Big Thunder Mountain, and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run will be included in Genie Plus, with other attractions to be announced at a later date. That's interesting. Almost makes you wonder if they've truly thought out the roster or not. Why would they be waiting? Just seems unusual to me to not have this list. Yeah, I already think that people are going to be confused by this whole Genie Plus thing to begin with. To not have the roster available right now seems curious to me. The story continues saying attraction wait times depend on a host of variables, including time of year, theme park capacity, attraction availability, attendance mix, and guest behavior, according to Disneyland officials. Just like the former FastPass system, Disneyland and California Adventure attraction inventory will be set aside for both lightning lanes and standby queues. Quote, "We're incredibly excited about the flexibility and choices Disney Genie complimentary service provides to make planning easier, maximize park time, and help guests make the most of their visits," close quote. Disneyland officials went on to say, "We believe this new service will enhance the overall park experience for all of our guests." And did you ever expect they would say anything different? They continue the story saying most but not all theme park experts expect the new paid Genie Plus line cutting system and Lightning Lane queues will improve attraction wait times for all visitors at Disneyland and California Adventure. The end of free fast passes could conceivably shorten Lightning Lane wait times and make attraction standby queues move faster, according to Martin Lewison, a theme park expert at Farmingdale State College in New York. Did you know you could go to school to be a theme park expert? I didn't realize. I mean, I guess technically, all of us that pretend like we are ones here on the internet, I guess technically we are all one of those theme park experts, aren't we? But that's so funny that there's somebody who considers themselves to be a theme park expert at Farmingdale State College in New York. I wonder if it's a professor or something like that. He says, quote, "Taking away free FastPass should reduce overall demand for rides by reducing the number of guests who wait in the virtual queue. Of those who once took advantage of free FastPass, some will spring for Genie Plus, and some will settle by joining the standby queue, and some will opt to avoid the queue altogether. The question then becomes, by how much?" Leisure Business Advisors Managing Director John Grenier expects fewer Disneyland visitors will use the FastPass replacement system once they need to pay for the convenience. I completely agree with that. He says, quote, "It's likely that many visitors won't feel the extra convenience is worth the price, so they'll use the normal queue lines instead." Dennis Spiegel, an industry expert with International Theme Park Services, expects Genie Plus will smooth out wait times, the theme park industry's single greatest nemesis, saying, quote, "Nobody likes to wait or stand in line, not you, not me. This new Genie program offers even more flexibility through a program called Lightning Lane Entrance that will save guests additional line time." But not all theme park experts believe Genie Plus will dramatically shorten wait times at Disneyland and DCA. Former Disney executive Duncan Dixon doesn't expect the end of Disneyland's free FastPass system will substantially shorten wait times for lightning lanes or standby queues. Quote, "The guest mix of Disneyland is so much different than other parks," the retired University of Central Florida assistant professor of theme park and attraction management said. The majority of the guests that come to Disneyland are annual pass holders. You probably won't see much of a difference at Disneyland because they are much more savvy guests. They've been there so often and know how to work the systems, close quote. MiceChat hopes the new paid Genie Plus system won't be as commonly used as the former free FastPass and $20 MaxPass systems. Quote, if fewer people pay for Genie Plus than used FastPass or MaxPass, lines could be better than in the past, according to MiceChat. But at $20 per person per day, it's a pretty good bet that there will be plenty of Genie Plus users every day, close quote. The broken FastPass system often made standby wait times very long, according to Sci-Fi Wire theme park reporter Carly Weissel. Quote, the shift towards Disney Genie Plus and a a la carte options was the right choice for the parks going forward, Weissel wrote. By limiting the number of guests who receive expedited entry, the standby lines can hypothetically move more quickly, particularly when in-app software is nudging you towards locations that currently have shorter lines, close quote. The former front-of-the-line system created longer wait times for everyone not using FastPass, according to the Orange County Register theme park columnist Robert Niles, saying, quote, as a paid system, Disney Genie Plus should attract fewer users than free FastPass, allowing Disney to better manage standby lines. So there you have it. So when it comes to the Genie Plus service, my friends, you got a mixed bag there as to people thinking as to whether or not this is going to really budge the needle or move that needle at all and move things from one side to the other, whether or not things are going to slow down or be more wild. Very interested once again in what you think, because this is something that is pretty unique. I think that will be happening for all of us here in the near future. Definitely something that no doubt over the course of its existence will impact the guest experience in a dramatic way, because I'm sure they will be adding things to the Genie Plus service. So my question to you is, what concerns you the most about the Genie Plus service? Are you somebody that is more concerned about this creating a two-tiered guest experience? Are you somebody that is concerned about the long wait times? Do you think this is going to back things up dramatically and it's going to become a really big problem down the line? Or do you think, like many of these experts think, that this is really going to make things more efficient, probably? Less people are probably going to purchase the Genie Plus service and the Lightning Lane access, so therefore there's probably going to be much more of an efficiency movement of people in the standby lines. They do have a point, I suppose, on those days where less people, because they said here in the story that obviously Disneyland already has an inventory set aside daily for what was at one point FastPass. So that already exists. So that's already sort of, I guess, installed into this idea of Genie Plus. So that's there. That's not going anywhere. So knowing that that is already a part of the makeup of this system, that inventory sits until it's purchased. So do you think that this might just speed things up? Again, I'm always hesitant to knock anything before we experience it. It does feel like, based on what they're offering here, especially knowing that they are charging for something that was once complimentary, no doubt it feels like a cash grab, right? It feels like we're being upcharged and nickel and dimed. But if this speeds things up and allows you the ability to, especially if you can't get on something that you really want to go on, if this speeds things up and you're able to purchase this to lock on to your favorite attraction and not necessarily have to wait, especially in a pickle, a real extreme sort of crowding situation, then hey, maybe this just might be exactly what the doctor ordered. But you tell me, what concerns do you have the most about the Genie Plus service that will be debuting here shortly? And no doubt they are already setting up the Lightning Lane system and the signage all over Walt Disney World. And I know that Disneyland is already seeing so many FastPass machines being removed. That was something that in my most recent visit I was looking at. I saw these FastPass machines that still existed, and I thought, are these going away? They're not going to be using these anymore, right? Like, there's no need. And, sure enough, they started removing them this week. So let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Genie Plus service. That is no doubt going to transform all of our theme park going lives. Very interested in hearing what you have on your mind. Hey, we're going to be chatting a little bit about whether or not we are going to see a particular Candlelight procession come back to EPCOT this year for Christmas time. You stick around with us. More to come on Disney News Talk Live after the break. Welcome back, Disney News Talk Live. I'm Wade, and this, my friends, is the Kingdom Report. Hey, if you haven't dropped us a like already, sure would appreciate it. Let us know that this is worth your time and something that you're interested in. We'll continue doing broadcasts just like this if you find it valuable, covering all the news of the week, and of course, going after that opinion of yours. This is your Disney Parks experience after all, so we want to hear from you. Make sure to drop us a comment no matter where you are watching, whether it is Facebook Live or YouTube live stream. It's always an honor to have you with us. And certainly, if you have not subscribed to us yet, we do encourage you to do that so you never miss an update, especially when we go live with these broadcasts. You never want to miss a thing because you just never know when we might pop up with one. Hey, we're going to take some of your comments here when it came to the new Disney Genie Plus service. Say that 3 times fast. That is something that is definitely going to impact all of our lives at the theme parks here, coming very soon. And we were talking just before the break about how this may or may not impact overall wait times for the better. And certainly it's something that they've got experts on both sides of the aisle saying, yeah, it's going to make it better, and people saying, heck no, it's not. It's going to probably make it worse. So your feedback coming in. Enchanted Tiki Room says, DFB reported that if you purchase Genie Plus, you have to purchase it for every day that you go to the parks. This could get very expensive for the average family that spends 5+ nights at Walt Disney World. Tiki Room, you're absolutely right. Yeah, this is something that's going to be very costly for a family of 5. Certainly something that everybody needs to consider before they plunk down that extra cash and the add-ons that come along with the Genie Plus service. A lot of things are complimentary. A lot of things in that Genie Plus app are going to be, a service to help you try and plan your day as best as possible, as they're describing it. They're doing their best to try and help everybody understand that this is something that is going to point them in the direction of no or less wait times, point them in the direction of attractions that aren't necessarily all that busy. And they're claiming it's going to work out really well. I'm very hesitant to celebrate the concept just on the surface, mainly, and it has nothing to do with the plan and nothing to do with what they're saying, but I come from experience here. Disney's IT team has just never delivered on the launch of anything. And it's been very stressful, not just as a theme park fan, to deal with their failed launches and just how horribly these are often run in the beginning. They get there, they do. They always bounce back at some point. But as somebody that's also worked with in the industry and worked with Disney on a variety of fronts, especially big launches and things that are technologically rooted, I can tell you firsthand just how really poorly the IT rollouts of these things are. So to have this be something that, I mean, by the way, I point back just at something even that happened not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, right? Just the sales of the annual passes, they can't accommodate more than a few hundred people at a time trying to access their website. Everything gets slowed down and people have to wait 6 hours just to access anything. It's these sorts of things that are huge drawbacks to the experience and huge drawbacks to wanting to be a fan of this product because they routinely don't fix things and don't make it better the next time. We've seen this time and time again, and we've watched as this experience not only seems to get worse each time, but there's really no indication that anyone at Disney thinks it's a problem. And that's certainly something that, again, I go back to with my own experience. I had to threaten getting the president of the resort involved at one point when I was trying to get them to do the right thing on the IT side for something that was affecting thousands of guests all at the same time. And they were screaming at us and they were furious at us. And, this had something to do with the app and something specifically that had to do with, what we were dealing with in terms of entitlements and offerings and stuff like that, that we promised them and that they paid for, by the way. This was when MaxPass was around. And we were getting screamed at because it was something the IT team refused to fix until their next rollout, which was like 2 weeks from that point. And they said, oh, it'll all be a part of that rollout. I had to threaten to get the president involved for them to say, oh, we should probably escalate this and maybe work on it now. I mean, I just feel like there's a disconnect between one side of the company and the other when it comes to technology-based things. But so at any rate, I'm a little concerned that this might not even on the surface work out the way that we think it's going to work to begin with. It's probably going to take a little while, and we'll cross our fingers. Hopefully it's a smooth rollout and they'll surprise everybody this time. I'm always an optimist, but that is not something that has been typical when it comes to anything IT and tech related. But yeah, the cost absolutely is something that is going to add up very quick for any sort of large family, for any group of people that would like to take part in this service day after day on their vacation. This is going to be a severe charge up. And so it's not going to be for everybody every day. Probably going to have to pick your days here and there and really decide whether or not some days are worth it and some days aren't. So Tiki Room, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. D also chimes in on that and says, yes, you will have to add Genie Plus to every day of your multi-day ticket, just like a park hopper. Absolutely. Thank you, D. Mr. C says, if I can spend $20 for lunch, then I'll spend the money for the lightning lane as long as I can ride unlimited for the day. Well, there you go. So there's one person's opinion. Again, this all comes down to personal preference and whether or not you're willing to plunk down the extra cash. If it means, that you can be expedited on some of the best of attractions, especially the ones that you are most looking forward to, then yeah, it does sound like it might be worth it, and it's something that you're going to budget for and make happen for yourself. So, Mr. C, thank you for that. Diane chimes in saying, "For me, Genie Plus is worth it for the photo pass included. However, it depends on how many people purchase. Also, if you can only get one at a time, not sure how that would work." So, I think when it comes to especially adding things like PhotoPass and stuff like that, yeah, there are other upcharges too. There are other things that you can choose to add on to your Genie Plus app and your experience, and it's something that I'm almost like concerned about. And you raise this point. You think about a family traveling together or a group of friends traveling together, even, and what happens when you only have one person that's purchasing the Lightning Lane service and everybody else decides not to. Certainly it's up to that one person to make that decision. They'd be expedited onto rides alone in themselves, but it's something that I think as, a group of friends or, maybe an extended family that's visiting, everybody's got to be on the same page about, a lot of communication. And yeah, when it comes to things like your photo pass, if you can only get one at a time, does one person buy that upcharge service for PhotoPass and then send the downloads to everybody else. I know that was kind of how people were doing things with the Max Pass at one point. So, good question, Diane. We'll see how it all rolls out. That's definitely something that I think needs to be considered as well. All right. Rich says, majority of guests will pay for Genie Plus and scale back on the number of park days to manage overall Disney vacation expenses. Interesting thought. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I definitely, I'm thinking about, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a family, and I can definitely see a group of people. I mean, if it means you're maximizing your time and you can do more quickly, right? More in a shorter amount of time, so you can then experience more faster, then you're right. You're probably going to cut down on your overall park day experience because you're able to hammer out everything you want to do in a much shorter amount of time. So, great point, Rich. I appreciate you chiming in. And there was a comment here a little ways up that was asking about whether or not they're going to take away single rider, because as it stands, it's very little weight on a number of attractions. Very true. Tinker Shell chimes into that comment saying, I don't think they'll remove single rider. Singles just fill the empty space. I only ride this way where it's offered. You know what? And as somebody that's always in the parks, solo, mainly, updating things and recording things and stuff like that. It's much quicker to go alone and to be able to get in and get out and slip through things. I got to tell you, single rider is a dream come true. Single rider is something that, especially if, I see single rider is open and available, which it is most of the time for something like Radiator Springs Racers and Cars Land. I love it because I barely wait 5 minutes anytime I'm there. You know what? I jump on and I fill an empty spot. So, great point. I don't know what they're going to do with single rider. I would imagine, just like Tinker Shell says, that they're probably going to keep single rider around. It's probably going to be one of those things that they may not necessarily have on every attraction in terms of signage, but it probably will be there still. So certainly something to check in about, because I haven't seen it declared anywhere, at least, that it's going away. All right. Well, my friends, let's move along here. I think the next story up is whether or not we are going to be seeing a return of everybody's favorite Candlelight processional to EPCOT. Oh my gosh, I am beyond thrilled to think that this might happen, because it's certainly something that I always get amped up about. It's certainly something that always matters to me whenever I'm at Walt Disney World, because it's just such an epic scene. It is such a Christmas hug. It is such a holiday festivity that you can't go without. I love it so much. And we were just talking about it here a second ago when it came to Disneyland and whether or not they were even going to do that out at Disneyland this year. And if it's something that might be worth, doing for the new Disneyland Christmas party. Certainly something they could probably think about in the future, because I think they've already locked that into place. And now we're only going to be dealing with what they have announced for offerings at the Disneyland Christmas party. But there is a rumor floating around right now. Blog Mickey has reported that, according to a message sent to former cast choir participants, Disney World is currently exploring ways to bring back the Candlelight Processional to EPCOT this holiday season, saying the message appears to be part of the early planning stages, as it stresses that the current goal of the team planning the return of Candlelight Processional is to register the interest among the former cast choir participants before a final decision is made on how to bring the show back. Auditions are expected to take place soon and could possibly even be underway already. Details such as how the show may be modified, if at all, were not given. Disney has not publicly announced the return of Candlelight Processional yet, and Disney World canceled the 2020 performances of the Candlelight Processional due to COVID-19, but a new policy that requires cast members to be fully vaccinated by the end of September could pave the way for a return of suspended entertainment offerings. Disney has already announced the return of their first fully fledged parade, with the announcement of Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time parade during Disney Very Merriest After Hours party. As always, this is something that we want to make sure everybody understands is just a rumor at this point, but this is also something that I know a lot of people look forward to. It's part of their tradition when they visit Walt Disney World during the holiday season. And so I reached out to some of my friends that work at the Walt Disney World Resort and started asking around as to whether or not they too, especially people that have performed in this show before, as to whether or not they have been alerted that something might be getting underway, or if they know of anybody that are in rehearsals right now. And I also have heard that not only did they receive the message that auditions have begun, but that there is a plan to put this in place in some sort of modified way moving forward. So again, nothing official when it comes to what Disney has announced, but certainly they are making movements behind the scenes to bring back the Candlelight processional returning to Walt Disney World this holiday season. Very excited to hear that that is the case. I know last year was just such a bummer at Christmas time. And I understand that last year in general was a bummer. This whole pandemic nightmare has just been a terrible thing to deal with to begin with. And throughout this entire process, it's been something that, to even have had Walt Disney World available to us last year was kind of a miracle, given the fact that Disneyland essentially remained shuttered until almost late spring this year. I mean, it's kind of remarkable that Walt Disney World was able to not just reopen last year, last July, but also was able to do some things for Christmas time. And I got to tell you, last year in my entire life, last year at Christmas was the only time I've ever felt like Christmas was just stolen. Like there was no Christmas spirit. There was nobody could be around each other. Nobody could celebrate. It was just so sad. And it felt like it was a stolen holiday. It felt like the Grinch moved in, took it from us, and we weren't able to enjoy it at all. And so I did head out to Walt Disney World last December to, basically experience Christmas pandemic style at Disney World. And they did have a handful of offerings. They really tried last year, and kudos to Disney World for being the lone source of joy domestically here during the holiday season. But I went out to Disney World last year during Christmas, and even with the snowfalls and even with the music and their attempts, and they had some low-level fireworks on the castle at Magic Kingdom, with the projections, the Christmas projections and stuff like that. Even with those things and some of the cavalcades, the Christmas cavalcades, even with all of that, it was still very difficult to enjoy the holiday season in the middle of just how dark everything else felt. And I've never not been captivated when I visit a Disney park. I've never not been truly enveloped in the magic. But I got to tell you, over the last year and a half, when the real world encroaches on the Disney experience, that's it. It's what happens. It encroaches and it messes with the Disney experience, and you don't feel the same. And unfortunately, it wasn't as magical as it used to be. And Christmas, like I said, felt like it got stolen from us last year. So it's great to know that we're going to see the holiday season back in essentially full force, at least Disneyland style. I know that Walt Disney World has some big plans too, but knowing that this is all happening behind the scenes right now and the planning for it, for the Candlelight processional at EPCOT to occur here in the near future, this is awesome. Because this means that we are about to see what sounds like a full-fledged Walt Disney World Christmas experience. And so that is so cool. Very happy to hear that this is coming along. And we will certainly see if this stops becoming a rumor and starts becoming real just as soon as they announce it, because I know we are getting pretty close to it. All right, moving along here, it sounds like there is a big old need for some cast members. That's right, big old hiring need for some cast members when it comes to the Walt Disney World Resort. Disney World right now offering $1,000 signing bonuses for new cast members. I know. In fact, they're holding a job fair coming up here very shortly as Disney World continues to get ready for an expected influx of guests as they kick off their 50th anniversary in just a couple weeks. They are holding a job fair for multiple positions. According to Disney, they will be holding a job fair on September 20th for the following positions: custodial and food and beverage quick service restaurants, culinary and dishwasher. Housekeeping job fair will also be happening on September the 20th, also including a $1,000 new hire bonus. This is all going to be taking place at the Coronado Springs Resort and Convention Center, so Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, Monday, September 20th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The event is open to the public. Qualified candidates will have the opportunity to apply and interview on site, and some candidates may even be hired on the spot. Blog Mickey is reporting that back in July, Disney held an online hiring event that looked to bring on thousands of new cast members. With multiple resorts expected to open this fall and winter, Disney is aiming to be fully staffed by the end of the year. So this tells me a couple of things. Looks like, number one, they have hit the bottom of the well when it comes to calling people back to work. So if they are already, and as they were in July, if they are having hiring events with $1,000 bonuses, this means that they've lost a big portion of their workforce and they are not returning. So as somebody that worked in recruiting for Disney and worked in the casting center for a number of years, I can tell you that these job fairs were pretty consistently held in 2019 on both coasts, mainly because there was a huge staff up going on for all the new experiences coming online, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge being the biggest of them. But there was so much happening. So many job fairs were happening throughout the year. And I don't even think then we were offering, I say I'm no longer with the Walt Disney Company, but I think even at that time, nobody was offering $1,000 new hire bonus at that point. So to know that these new hire bonuses are being thrown out there tells me that there's a hint of desperation in the air when it comes to the need to bring in additional talent to fill these roles. I also think that, we're seeing shortages all over the place in the rest of society. So Disney is certainly not immune to this, but we're seeing all kinds of shortages when it comes to a lot of frontline positions within restaurants, within hotels and hospitality. A lot of those frontline roles just aren't being filled anymore. Now, I did anticipate that we would start to see, as more states got weaned off of all of the bonuses that were coming from the federal level, as more states sort of got weaned off of that, I anticipated that we would start to see an uptick in some of these jobs getting applied for and filled. But if Disney's coming out already with the $1,000 bonuses and saying, please, 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 we need you, housekeeping, please, 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 culinary, dishwasher, come our way, custodial, food and beverage. I understand that these roles are not exactly the most, we'll call them sexy, right? These aren't the sexiest roles that you can have at Disney. I can tell you that the dishwasher role, it's hot, it's sticky, it's labor intensive. It can be really gross at times, and you're behind the scenes, and you don't get to see any guests, and you don't get to have any of the fun that's outside in the parks. You really are part of the engine room of a restaurant. In addition to that, obviously custodial, much the same way. At least they get to be outside for the most part, but the custodial team as well. Your food and beverage, quick service restaurant teams, they are in a constant barrage of people that are demanding things, and quick service in a place like Walt Disney World can be really wild most of the time. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen those lines, but quick service at Disney World restaurants can be pretty nuts. And housekeeping to a certain degree, I know, can be very stressful, especially when you're trying to get a bunch of rooms done very quickly in a short amount of time throughout your workday. And there are a lot of demands that really do rest on the shoulders of housekeeping at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I also know that over the course of time, they started to experiment. If anybody's been to Walt Disney World in the last couple of years, they started to experiment with this idea that you don't necessarily have to have housekeeping every day, right? And there was a time where they offered you like a gift card at check-in. They said, if you don't want housekeeping for the next couple days, hey, we'll give you a gift card. And it was, $50 or something like that. It wasn't that much, but it was something where they said, we'll pay you to not send housekeeping to your room. And oftentimes I hated getting, interrupted by housekeeping every day anyway, if I was in the room and trying to sleep in, because it only ever happened on the one day I was trying to sleep in, and they'd be banging on that door, even with the sign on the door that said, please no, I'm trying to sleep, the please don't disturb sign. And they were also doing these things for the last couple of years where they were banging on the door because they had to come in and do a room check. They weren't even cleaning. They were coming in and observing the room. And this all came into effect after the 2017 Vegas shooting, where suddenly the hotel rooms on Disney property were having visual inspections. People were coming in, cast members were, a lot of like housekeeping supervisors and stuff like that would come in and monitor basically what they saw in the rooms. You know, they would monitor the guest activity. They'd come in and take a look at like luggage and stuff like that and just kind of give a visual observation of whether or not anything seemed fishy, and then they would move along. Of course, anytime I was trying to sleep, the one day I would try and sleep in, because I wouldn't do it most days, the one day I would try and sleep in, not only would housekeeping show up with that privacy please on the door and they'd try to come in, but then I'd also get the bang, bang, bang of the lead or the supervisor coming in who said, I just need to check things out. And it's like, oh my God, I'm just trying to sleep. Please let me sleep. But what do you think when it comes to Walt Disney World offering up $1,000 signing bonuses now? This is big, right? You know, this is certainly something that's changing pretty dramatically and pretty quickly across all the service industry. It's something that definitely keeps on, we'll say, evolving. But do you think that there are any sort of staffing issues at the Disney parks? And have you ever noticed any staffing issues at the Disney parks as of late? Have you been somebody that has visited Walt Disney World or Disneyland and noticed that they just don't have enough people to keep up with demand or keep up with certain spaces? I know that the only reason why Carnation Cafe at Disneyland is opening later this week and didn't open months ago, they just couldn't find anybody. They couldn't find anybody in the culinary section to come back and staff that restaurant. They had basically a shortage of cooks everywhere and a shortage of teams that were trying to make everything else happen. And so there has been a slow burn. There has been a very slow bounce back when it comes to bringing areas online and reopening things. But Walt Disney World has had a heck of a head start, and no doubt, you know, opening last July, they have been able to bring back things in a much bigger capacity over the course of time. They also reintroduced the college program. I mean, that also has recently come back. So, you know, they imported basically an entire workforce to come take care of things. But you tell me, have you noticed any staffing issues at the Disney parks lately? Would certainly be interested in hearing your perspective. Coming up next, we are going to be talking about a certain somebody getting honored with a window on Main Street, USA, out at Walt Disney World. I am looking forward to talking about that here in just a second. You stick with us. Plenty more Disney News Talk Live next.
You're lucky it didn't spot you. Take those turbo lifts and stay out of trouble.
Hey, you're not authorized. Wait, it goes in the prison.
Cover's blown. Find an alternate route. Who picked these two droids anyway?
Fire! If anyone's packing a blaster, now's a good time. Ah! The escape pod's just below us. Wait, why are you going up? I said down. Up is bad. Up is real bad.
Welcome back, Disney News Talk Live. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so. We always have a lot going on throughout the week, whether it's our Eat Disney dining reviews, our Disneyland in-park updates, our Walt Disney World vlogs, or Kingdom Report Live, where we all come together and you can see my ugly mug along with some much more beautiful people. You can certainly check us out. Make sure that you are not only subscribed, that you have that notification bell turned on so that you don't miss anything when it comes to all of the magic and us connecting you to more of what makes you happy. This past week, as a matter of fact, we were able to share with the channel the latest parade to arrive, and that is over at California Adventure, the Oogie Boogie Bash. The Frightfully Fun Parade was happening. Oh, so cool. My goodness. It was great to be able to share that on the channel, so certainly something to check out. We also did a fitting tribute to 9/11 this weekend, and we're able to showcase a couple of stories that were uniquely connected to Disney parks on 9/11. Very sentimental, quite humbling stories in addition to that. So all things that you should probably check out if you've got the time and if you have the interest here on the channel. And if you haven't hit that thumbs up button, make sure that you do so. Let everybody know that there is a bit of a party going on in here and that they are invited. But the best way to showcase that you are a part of that party is hitting that thumbs up button. Yeah, we do appreciate it. Well, big news, my friends, coming out of Walt Disney World, and that is another window on Main Street has been placed. Yes, indeed. George Calagridis, the former president of Walt Disney World, has been honored with a window on Main Street, USA, while serving as the global ambassador for the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary celebration. LaughingPlace.com has reported that George A. Calagridis, president of Disney Segment Development and Enrichment for Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, has been honored with a window on Main Street, USA at Magic Kingdom. Currently, Walt Disney World Resort President Jeff Vail shared on Instagram that George Calagridis has received the honor of a window on Main Street, USA. The window installation comes just 19 days ahead of the start of the 50th anniversary celebration on October the 1st, which is fitting because George Calagridis was with the property when it opened. George's first role at Disney was as a busser at Disney's Contemporary Resort in September of 1971. The resort opened ahead of the theme park. So he truly is, ladies and gentlemen, a Disney World original. Over the years, George Calagridis has served in a variety of leadership roles at Disney, including becoming president of both the Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World Resort. George Calagridis and his window, I should say, reads, "Be our guest. The Main Street Chamber of Commerce invites you to live, work, play in our welcoming community, Main Street, USA. People, partnerships, and progress are the keys to our world. George A. Calagridis, Ambassador, Main Street, USA." There's a lot on that window, but definitely fitting to a man who has spent his life dedicated to the Walt Disney Company and into making Walt Disney World what it is. George, as mentioned, is serving currently as the global ambassador for the 50th anniversary celebration. And another window was recently added to Main Street, honoring Phil Holmes, Trevor Larson, Jim McAfee, and Dijon Rivers, all executives at the Walt Disney World Resort, some that have recently retired and some that have moved on to other roles. So George Calagridis, ladies and gentlemen, is somebody very personal to me. He has spent many years mentoring myself and being there for me in some of the most pivotal moments of my Disney career. He's somebody that, believe it or not, every time I go out to Walt Disney World, finds time for breakfast with me. And you know, I don't say that as a name drop. I don't say that as some sort of weird flex. I say that as this is Disney leadership, the way that it should be. And he doesn't get anywhere near the amount of praise as other Disney executives do. He's a man that has just the utmost integrity, some of the greatest character. And frankly, I thought he was going to be named to the Disney Parks chairman position after Bob Chapek became CEO. I did not anticipate Josh D'Amaro, who everybody knows and loves and celebrates. I did not anticipate Josh D'Amaro being moved to the chairman spot because he had just become president of Disney World, if you followed the timeline. So he just moved into that spot and within, I want to say, a couple months, suddenly became chairman of Parks and Resorts. So I anticipated, given the seniority and the experience of George, who's been around the world at all the Disney parks and who has overseen, I should say, who has seen through so many pivotal moments of Walt Disney World and the Disney parks at large. This guy has managed to impact Disney in a way that many people will never understand, many people will never know about and have any grasp of, because he's always played such a pivotal behind the scenes type role. And yeah, he was 15 years old when he started at Disney World as a busser. He was cleaning up people's messes, and he ultimately moved his way on up, and I met him when he became the president of the Disneyland Resort. Fortunately, I was able to be honored with some national and statewide recognition at that time for hospitality, kind of put me on the map with our executives. And George became a very close personal friend of mine, to the point that I even sent him a message here when I heard that he got this window, and just shared with him that nobody deserves this honor more than he does. In fact, when I heard that the rest of this group here a couple weeks ago had received windows, I was like, what about George? How about George? I thought maybe it's because he's not retired, maybe it's because he's still there. But he has finally received the honor, and the window on Main Street is one of the highest honors you can receive in the Disney company. No doubt this has touched him to a great degree. But yeah, George is one of those people that over the course of time, every opportunity I have to spend time with him, he's always so much more interested in me and where I see myself and what sort of leadership principles I've been able to teach myself and learn about, and how I can grow in the organization, those sorts of things. And so over the course of time, he was somebody that I looked to as a tremendous mentor, and still do to this day. There's something really powerful about, getting out of a vehicle at a Disney resort, having, the president, he was at the time, and walking up to me and saying, "Hello, my friend." There's something very heartwarming about that, and he's a guy who over the course of time has managed to impact things to a very great degree, and I'm thrilled that he is the global ambassador for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary right now. Nobody loves that place more than he does, and no doubt this is a fitting tribute to a man that has had a tremendous impact on all things Disney parks. Moving right along here, in case you haven't heard, Yehaa Bob is coming back. Yep, to Disney's Port Orleans Riverside Resort, ladies and gentlemen. Our friends over at Inside the Magic have reported that Yehaa Bob is on his way, along with more entertainment returning to the Walt Disney World Resort. Bob Jackson, known as Yehaa Bob, just confirmed he will be coming back to Disney's Port Orleans Riverside. If you don't know who Yehaa Bob is, he's a guy that puts on basically a one-man show at Port Orleans Resort Riverside. He is somebody that people go crazy for, right? He's somebody that absolutely has a cult following, we'll say, in the best ways, because of his one-man show. He got laid off last year, and we were all devastated. I mean, we were absolutely, troubled by this idea that somebody like him, who had been with Disney World for so long, a legacy award winner even, he had been let go as part of a major entertainment shuffle. A lot of people last year, tens of thousands of cast members were let go, but he is on his way back, and we couldn't be more happy. Inside the Magic says, in case you're not aware, Bob Jackson, also known as Yehaa Bob, was a Disney World entertainment performer for 23 years. Guests could find him putting on a fun and unique show over at Disney's Port Orleans Riverside almost every night, as Yehaa Bob played the piano, sang familiar tunes, and somehow managed to get every person up and out of their seats, creating memories that would last a lifetime. Unfortunately, Yehaa Bob was part of the massive layoffs last year due to the ongoing pandemic, and he was unsure if he would return to the Walt Disney Company. This news affected many Disney fans, as not long after the layoff was announced, a Change.org petition surfaced asking Disney to rehire Yehaa Bob at Disney's Port Orleans Riverside. Now, nearly 1 year later, we have only great news to share, and that is that Bob Jackson himself confirmed that he will be returning to Port Orleans Riverside when it reopens to guests next month. Bob Jackson said that Disney called him this past week, asking him to return to his stage on October the 14th, and could not be more happy. At this time, the Walt Disney World website has not been updated to include showtimes, but Inside the Magic will update all of us as soon as they get the information. So keep your eye also on the Walt Disney World website and the Port Orleans Riverside stage. Yehaa Bob is somebody that has been a cornerstone of the entertainment experience at the resort. And by the way, if you're somebody that has ever visited a Disney World moderate or deluxe resort before, you know that these entertainment performers, that these cast of characters basically, you know that these are what make Disney so special. You know that these acts, that these sprinklings of entertainment, if you will, are exactly what bring these resorts to life. Whether it's the themed greeters at places like, Yacht and Beach Club, whether it is the performers that happen to be moving through places like, I don't know, the Polynesian. They have their dinner show even, which hopefully will come back. We're hearing rumors, unfortunately, that that show might not return after all. But, you think about the cultural ambassadors that present you a lei on the way in of the Polynesian resort, and these individuals that are very much a part of making you feel like you've been transported somewhere else. My sadness hits my heart. I was going to say my poor heart when I think about places like the Grand Floridian, losing the Grand Floridian Orchestra, Society, losing them in this shuffle of pandemic craziness, and losing them in all of this just sucks the life out of the Grand Floridian. And yes, it's a place that is ridiculously expensive, but each of these places have a personality. And what brings these personalities to life? These performers, these people, these very special people that act as cultural ambassadors, that are people that might be themed doormen or themed greeters. These individuals are what make Disney World the escape that it is. So, at any rate, congratulations, Yehaa Bob Jackson, returning after all this time to Disney's Port Orleans Riverside. Just cannot wait. And you tell me, it's time to talk back. What Disney Parks entertainment are you still waiting to see from coast to coast? Walt Disney World, Disneyland, what are you waiting to see? Are you somebody that, really looking forward to seeing that Fantasmic come back at Disney's Hollywood Studios, or Fantasmic at Disneyland even? Maybe you're somebody that's expecting that Mickey and the Magical Map will be returning at some point. It's been very quiet at Disneyland recently when it comes to entertainment, and certain aspects returning on the West Coast. But Disney World's been a little bit more pushy when it comes to entertainment offerings, and certainly we've seen Beauty and the Beast live on stage return. We've also seen sort of a modified Festival of the Lion King come back. Are there certain entertainment acts, certain entertainment offerings that you are looking forward to returning here in the near future? Let me know in the comments section. I'd be very interested to hear what is on your mind when it comes to entertainment at the happiest place and the most magical place on Earth. All right, my friends, you stick with us. We're going to be back with you here in just a second. Wrap things up for you, as it were, here in just a bit. Stay with us. Disney News Talk Live. Wade Heath with the Kingdom Report here, hanging out for another edition of the Disney News Talk Live. Covered a lot of stories here already. Basically, Disneyland bringing a Christmas party into existence. We also talked about the Genie Plus service and what that might do to lines. Also looking at the possibility of the EPCOT Candlelight processional returning this holiday season. They are trying to hire all kinds of people out at Walt Disney World, and even willing to throw out $1,000 or more as a sign-on bonus. We also talked about George Calagridis, the president of Walt Disney World of the past, as somebody who has just received a window on Main Street, nobody more deserving, and entertainment returning to Walt Disney World in little drips here and there. And I asked you what you think when it comes to Disney Parks entertainment, and what you are still waiting to see return. Dwayne chimed in saying the performers are what made so many of these places worth the money. Dwayne, amen. I think about all of the various hotels and all of the properties that I can visit at Walt Disney World, and then also, even things like the piano player at the Grand Californian Hotel and Spa at Disneyland, and even the individual character greetings that you would often find at the Disneyland Hotel. In the afternoons, you might see Goofy out and about saying hello. You'd also see, at Walt Disney World, your various entertainment acts, your themed greeters, your piano players, your musical acts. All of that makes so much of a difference, again, in truly captivating you and taking you away, making you feel like you're in a completely different world. And that is what Disney does better than anybody. So to not have these entertainment acts, to not have these experiences, that's hard. And certainly I think wanes on the experience overall and whether or not it's worth the price. Because without these entertainment acts, it's like, oh, I'm just paying for a bed, or oh, I'm just paying for a roof over my head. All right, but these entertainment acts make things so much more special. I think about the red car trolley boys at California Adventure. There's something really sad about not having the trolley running at California Adventure since it's returned, and not having the trolley boys and not having the streetcar moving back and forth. That's such a key aspect of the story of Buena Vista Street and Hollywoodland. It's so weird not having it right now. So we'll be interested in seeing whether or not that's going to come back at some point. Diane chimed in saying, World of Color and more parades. Diane, I couldn't agree more with you. I got to tell you, we touched on this here not too long ago in a Disneyland in-park update. World of Color is in shambles. So if you don't know the story, I'll give you the quick and dirty version. World of Color was essentially left to rot over the pandemic. Disneyland not being open for most of the year. I don't know if nobody was checking on World of Color's infrastructure or they just weren't checking enough, because they would always have routine maintenance and they had to have certain attractions run and cycled through regardless of whether or not they were open, for the sake of keeping things in workable order, basically, so that things wouldn't just break down and become obsolete. And so there was a limited skeleton crew that would still come in over the course of the last year at Disneyland and make sure everything worked right, make sure everything was taken care of, and that, routine maintenance was done for the sake of just looking after all the experiences. Because if they were to get that, heads up, that green light that they could reopen, then things were gonna immediately open back up and take place and happen. But I don't know what occurred with World of Color that ended up being so overlooked or ignored or accidentally forgotten about. But the World of Color infrastructure is in shambles. Things have rotted. Things have you know what? And when it comes down to it, a lot of rusting happened. The infrastructure of the World of Color show is a mess. And so in one of my more recent in-park updates, I even showcased some of the platforms, the projection platforms for World of Color, and let everybody see for themselves that this stuff is in pieces. And it's so sad, because you realize they're going to have to spend a fortune to fix all this. So we're hearing rumors that the plan is to try and get World of Color back up and running by 2022, and maybe spring or summer next year. But boy, do they have a long way to go when it comes to repairing things and taking care of things at California Adventures World of Color. So I don't know if anybody got fired over that, because seems like a huge mistake to have overlooked the repair and the constant preventative maintenance when it came to World of Color. I often think back to the time also at Walt Disney World where they left the Spectrum Magic Parade outside during like a hurricane. If I recall correctly, I think that's how the story went. I heard it, secondhand, but apparently this is exactly what happened. And it was some sort of storm or something big blew through, Florida, as it typically does. There's always some sort of adverse weather. But I guess what happened was many of the central floats to the Spectral Magic Parade, which is basically the Walt Disney World equivalent of the Electrical Parade, but had kind of a different story and was spectacular in its own right and in its own way. Spectral Magic was left out during a big storm, and it destroyed almost all of these floats and just ruined everything, and it was not salvageable. And so I remember hearing about that while I was working for Disney, and just knowing that no doubt there was a huge earthquake when it came to the entertainment division and the parades division and the personnel that worked in that division that was responsible for the ownership of these things. I don't know how such a mistake could have been made, but that's how the tale goes, unfortunately. But yes, World of Color, it will be great to see it come back, hopefully next year. And yeah, you know, I keep thinking about the parades. We're hearing also that there's going to be and we're ahead of the curve on this one, but sources are telling us that there is going to be a return of the electrical parade to the Disneyland Resort going into next year. So bringing in those nighttime crowds. I don't know to which park. It sounds like it will be heading to California Adventure, as it has been doing in the past. And I think mainly to offer something at night because there is no World of Color. So it sounds like the electrical parade will be dusted off once again. It just never dies, that electrical parade. No matter how many times Disney's told us it's going away, boy, oh boy, this sucker has 90 lives, doesn't it? I mean, it does not die. It is the spectacular and never-ending parade. And so it sounds like Electrical Parade coming back to the Disneyland Resort to fill the void while World of Color is out of commission. We do know that the Christmas Fantasy Parade is returning for the holiday season, Diane, so that's great news. But, you know, the thing that only got a very short run while Disneyland remained open for a couple weeks between its debut and when things shut down due to the pandemic was, the last parade that they had. And unfortunately, it's something that very few people got to see. We have it, by the way, here on our YouTube channel. So if you're somebody that has never seen the Disneyland parade that debuted just before things went off the rails and life as we know it shut down, it's something that you can definitely look into. We have it here on the channel. It's one of those things that we were able to shoot the night version of the parade before everything went completely to hell. And so I think there were only a couple of nights where it got dark enough where we could film that parade with all of its lights on. And fortunately, we were able to capture it. And then I want to say within a couple of days, they told everybody, hey, you're only going home for 2 weeks and then everything will open back up. And we all know what happened after that. So at any rate, would be really, really excited to see all the parades come back, especially since Disneyland only got to have a very limited run the first time with it. Mr. C says, World of Color at Disneyland would be nice, but the structures under the water are in need of an overhaul. Why, yes, Mr. C, you're absolutely right. I know that you had commented this while I was speaking, so I know that you certainly were basically competing with me at the same time, where I was sharing it and you were sharing it. So great minds think alike, Mr. C. You're absolutely right. So yeah, they need a lot of help. Yeah, you seem to know. And Drej says, I want to see Fantasmic back with more impromptu character greetings around the park. I hate that this is becoming a pay and plan park like Walt Disney World. And Drej, I don't know if this is going to last. Really, truly. I don't know if this is going to... they might try a couple of things. They're obviously trying it with the Christmas party, but it won't last. It can't last. Based on the demographics of Disneyland, based on the crowds and the way in which the West Coast, my neighborhood, the way our demographics are here on the West Coast, the way all of our Dream Key and Magic Key people and Enchant Key and Inspire Key people are, they operate very differently. And they might, Disney might be trying to navigate these waters with the reservation system, thinking that maybe this reservation system is going to be something that they can manipulate the demographic into doing these upcharge things and doing these extra pay things, but I just don't see it happening because, as we were sharing in our story here not too long ago about the Genie Plus, the Genie Plus experts weighing in as to whether or not the wait times are going to be longer or shorter. Even they were saying the theme park visitors at Disneyland they're too savvy. They're too smart. They're too savvy. They know it like the back of their hand. Many of them have worked there. Many of them know more than anybody else what Disneyland is all about. And they hold, believe it or not, a lot of the annual pass holders, the key holders, if you will, they hold Disneyland management accountable. That's something Walt Disney World doesn't experience a whole lot of because, they cater to international guests who come in for a vacation that lasts, a brief period of time, and then they're gone again and they don't see them for a year. Disneyland guests are there every week. Disneyland guests come in after work. And so, it was commonplace when I was at the Disneyland Resort that you knew that if you screwed something up, you were going to be hearing about it. There would be a line of annual pass holders to tell you messed up and this is unacceptable. They own the place basically, just like Disney does, because they look at it as a very personal experience. It's a place that's been in their backyard for generations, and therefore, as Magic Key holders and annual pass holders, they refuse to let anybody mess things up. So I agree with you. I think bringing Fantasmic back, more impromptu character greetings around the park, having all those things being added to the mix are going to make it even better. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do a whole lot of pay and plan like Disney World in the months ahead. I think they're going to experiment. I think they're going to make some attempts, but I don't think it's going to stick because they have the most aggressive of all the Disney Parks fans that won't let them. So that's my prediction. That's what I think is going to happen. Dresh, thank you for chiming in. And Drej also wanted to make mention, asking, do you think the Candlelight Processional will return this year? As I had mentioned here not too long ago, as we were talking about the Candlelight Procession at EPCOT and then the Christmas parties coming into effect at Disneyland, that was something that I would hope they would offer for like the Christmas party. I think that would be a really cool offering to tack on and make an extra. But typically the Candlelight Processional, they don't really advertise until a couple weeks before. Disneyland is handled so differently than Disney World in terms of the Candlelight Processional. And so it's not something that's usually even broadcast anywhere. I mean, it's for invitees only. It's always been that way. They invite people to come to the Candlelight Processional at Disneyland. It's a way to give back to the community. And then you can come see it for yourself if you'd like by standing all day in Town Square. But that's something that I know, is up to you to want to do. If you want to show up at 8 a.m. and wait until things start happening at, 7 p.m., that's up to you. But it's certainly something that they don't really even start advertising until a couple weeks in advance. And that's really just to acknowledge who the celebrity narrator will be. But in order to answer your question, do I think that Candlelight Processional will return this year? At Disneyland, I'll say yes, because we're far enough away. And I think that, I think that it's far enough out that they're going to be able to execute it. I am worried about what we'll see at Disney World. It sounds like they're making some movements behind the scenes, as we covered here a little bit earlier. But the fact that they aren't as far ahead in the process as they should be at this point, that kind of worries me a little bit. So crossing my fingers, hoping that it will debut at EPCOT as it typically does for the holiday season this year. Just not sure. And we'll take one more here from Mr. C. It says, wait, off topic. Why is Disney limiting the keyholder reservations more so than the open ones? So I take it, Mr. C, you mean... I take it you mean like the day guests, like the people that purchase tickets for the theme parks. Why are they limiting the key holder reservations more than the day guest reservation slots? Because they're and if that's not the case, please let me know. But that's how I'm taking the question. So I'll tell you this: they have an inventory. They need to keep things restricted for the sake of keeping up appearances and promises for the state and for ensuring that they are not overcrowding the park and packing things too tightly. It has been interesting to see that over the course of the last couple of weekends, that the key holders have been booking out reservations for the entire weekend. So it's been hit and miss here and there, depending on which key you hold, as to whether or not you're going to get your reservation slot for the weekend. But for the most part, it looks like the weekends have been booked out, and that they have entirely been off the table if you don't book early enough. And I think I said in a past Disney News Talk Live, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was coming. And so immediately what I did, because I have the second from the top pass, which is the Believe. I have the Believe key. That allows me 6 reservations that I can book and hold and squat on, if you will. I knew that was going to happen, so I immediately booked up weekends moving forward, the next 6 weekends, just to make sure that I had them, because I was convinced that that was what was going to happen. But in terms of Disney limiting the key holder reservations, it's, they anticipate a certain amount of day guest tickets to be sold, and they call them day guests. So those people that buy tickets and make reservations to come into the park that don't have an annual pass. So that's what a day guest is. So the day guest ticket holders, they anticipate that those people are going to fill the park to a certain amount, and they're usually pretty spot on. I'll give Disney that. They have industrial engineers, and they have people that make some pretty accurate predictions when it comes to what they anticipate the daily attendance is going to be for each category. And more often than not, they're only maybe 1,000 or 2,000 off. So they get pretty close based on trends and based on the past and stuff like that, historical trends. But what I have seen is that the key holder reservations, and we don't know how many they've sold, by the way. So, and I can't find anybody in the company that has any idea how many have been sold either. Like, there's not even murmurs of how well or how not well it's been going. But we have seen now over and over again that, at least in the first couple of weekends, these key holder reservations locked up, and you can't get in on the weekends. So I think that they're limiting the key holder reservations just because they have to keep so many open for who they anticipate is coming for day guest experiences, for those park tickets, those big spending park ticket guests. So they leave enough open for them. But we've also talked about this in the past, haven't we? About whether or not key holders, right? These magic key holders, especially the ones that have the highest pass without blockout dates, these key holders are not going to be able to get into the parks when they like, because some days are going to be blocked out due to capacity restrictions, due to the cutoffs of how many reservations they allow. This is gonna, if it hasn't already, and I haven't heard anything about it blowing up, I think it's still in the honeymoon phase, but I've said this before, this is going to become a very big problem for Disney. For however long they keep reservations in effect, and it sounds like Bob Chapek and Josh D'Amaro and all the Disney brass absolutely love the concept of keeping these reservations in effect. They love this control. They love being able to manipulate crowds. They love it. This is exactly what they've wanted, and they finally have it. So I don't see reservations going anywhere anytime soon, even into 2022. I think they're going to keep them around for a very long time to come, even after they go back to a full capacity load. And reminder, the CEO, Bob Chapek, did mention earlier this year that he anticipates trying to have things back to a full capacity, at least at Disney World, by the end of the year. So that's something that he was talking about. I don't know about Disneyland. Certainly, I think that we are going to experience some things coming up within the next few weeks. Here in California, there is a recall election going on for Governor Gavin Newsom. And over the last year, I definitely noted on Kingdom Report Live, and we covered the back and forth battle between Disney and the governor's office, and exactly the headbutting that was going on over whether or not things could reopen and how, and the science and all of these things. And, this isn't a political podcast, and this is certainly something we always tread lightly on, because politics, I should say, kind completely envelops everything else in life and society now. So we try and give you a break when it comes to covering Disney park stuff. But this is one of those things that has definitely impacted the guest experience over the course of time. And so the reason I mention it is because we are just a couple days away from that recall election voting happening, election day. And so things could really change here based on restrictions and what the state decides needs to happen next, based on whether or not the current governor, Gavin Newsom, remains in office or if he is replaced. So that all really will, I think, play into what happens next for Disneyland and for theme parks here. I'm pretty confident that we will see major changes if he remains governor. I think he's held off on a lot of he's held off on imposing a lot of new things in recent months. I think has not rocked the boat with the group of people that have decided to forge a recall against him. And so, at any rate, I just imagine that we are going to see a new round of restrictions potentially if he, in fact, remains governor and isn't replaced by somebody else who thinks very differently. So, again, I try not to dabble in the politics at all when it comes to covering Disney parks, but unfortunately, it bleeds over into the Disney parks experience and it impacts all of us. So it's something that has to be touched on. But yeah, over the course of the last year, Disneyland butted heads with the governor's office a lot and was pretty upset that he wouldn't allow for any sort of operations. He wouldn't allow for really anything to happen. And they had the Disney chief medical officer, I think is her name. I think that's her title. Dr. Pam is what they call her. She's the chief medical officer who said, we were able to do this safely in Walt Disney World. And they had a number of measures that they took out in Walt Disney World when it first opened to make sure that they could do it safely. And they kept saying, we can do this at Disneyland. We can make this happen. You understand that? And unfortunately, that wasn't something that the California state government thought was going to be acceptable. And so they refused for a very long time for Disneyland to be able to, reopen and to be able to do anything differently, other than just remaining closed. And unfortunately, it devastated the entire resort area. I know a lot of restaurants have completely disappeared from the resort area. A lot of hotels shut down and never have fully recovered. It just really impacted things to the point where the Anaheim mayor was holding press conferences screaming, "Can you please help us?" He's saying this to the state government. Please, is there anything you can do? We have tens of thousands of people that rely on Disneyland being open to live. And so we covered this a lot, like I said, in all of our Kingdom Report live shows over the course of the last year. And it was a very hairy back and forth, even to the point where Bob Iger, the outgoing chairman of Disney, he was on the reopening committee for the state. He was part of the governor's reopening committee. He resigned the reopening committee. So I don't pretend to know exactly what will happen if he is not replaced during the recall, but I really do have a feeling that more is on the way based on how he has been speaking recently about whether or not he is going to make some changes soon if he remains in office. I think it'll embolden him to do more. And probably this will impact our theme parks and impact the hospitality region once again. I could be completely wrong. It just seems like it's trending that way. It just seems like things are heading that direction. And I know also, I mentioned how the Disney chairman, Bob Iger, how he resigned and there was all this headbutting going on last year. Well, we just found out that Disney ended up committing tens of thousands of dollars to supporting his recall campaign. Not supporting him being recalled, but supporting him in defeating the recall. So I don't know what's going on. I don't understand I don't understand for a second what Disney is up to, and because they were not happy with him. They did not get along last year. There was real bad blood, it felt like, between the company and the state. And then all of a sudden, they're throwing money at his, save yourself campaign. So I don't know. I don't pretend to know what's going on, but at any rate, I appreciate so much the question, Mr. C. And like I said, I think things will be changing here in the near future, depending on who the governor is and depending on which direction things could go in the state, mainly because there's two very polar opposite people that will likely be governor after next week. So either it will remain Gavin Newsom or it looks most likely like it might be Larry Elder. So very different personalities, very different politics, very different ideas as to how the state should be run, and very different ideas as to how pandemic restrictions should be instituted. So again, definitely not trying to get political. That's not what anybody deserves, because we are inundated with it in everyday life, in every topic, and in every conversation. But because it spills over into our Disney parks experience, it's definitely worth touching on. So ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps things up here. I so appreciate you being a part of this show. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with me throughout this entire experience. I know we're coming up on a pretty fresh 2 hours here of Disney News Talk Live. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button, please do. It always means so much. And if you haven't subscribed to us, what are you waiting for? Make sure that you are subscribed with us and you got that notification bell turned on so that you never miss a thing when we have it uploaded for you, or when we go live, because you never know when a Disney News Talk Live could hit. At any rate, it means so much to me that you have commented and shared your thoughts, because this is all about your opinion and your Disney parks experience. Well, my friends, that about does it for me for the Kingdom Report. I'm Wade Heath. We'll see you next time for another edition of Disney News Talk Live.
Looking for some digital magic to help you through your week? The Kingdom Report is here for you, covering the latest Disneyland and Disney World news, experiences, and events. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Kingdom Report Live so you never miss an update. And drop a subscribe on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel for new videos every week. Don't miss out. Join this growing community of theme park fans as we aim to connect you to more of what makes you happy. For more information, visit KingdomReportLive.com. And now, back to the magic.